Hey gang, it's Jim here, and today on Microsoft Monday I have an iffy proposition for you. No, really, literally. We're going to talk about a case of ifs when dealing with Excel. In fact, this is going to be the first of a two-part series. The first is going to lay the groundwork for what an if statement is and how to do it, and some of if's cousins. Wait, cousin if, wasn't that from the Addams family? Oh, never mind. And then next week we'll go even deeper. So let's get right now into our Excel. It's over here, and now we see we have a basic list, a basic table, and there's an if column in column K, and we have a statement that says long flight. But when we click on that and we take a look at the function bar, we're going to see that we have a formula that's putting that in there. So let's understand how that works by building it ourselves. So I'm going to get rid of that, go into K2, and we're going to build our first if function. Now ultimately, we can always build functions using the function wizard, and ultimately we will get there. But for now, let's get the basic mechanics and how you know whether you're doing it right or wrong. So with any function, you always start the input with an equal sign, and then you use the function name, which is going to be if. Now look at the pop-up on the screen. That's going to guide you every step of the way. In this particular case, it's going to check for if you have actually a function that Excel supports. If is one of them. There are many other ones, including, you'll see at the bottom, ifs, plural. That'll be next week, by the way. But for here, we want to do if, so we're going to hit that, and then parentheses gives us the little information that will tell us whether we need and what we need to put in there. So as you see right now, what is highlighted is the logical test. Well, we have to actually say what we want to test and then what we want the value to be. So the test here is going to be a straightforward determination as to whether they are staying at the Hilton Hotel or not. So we can say if, and then instead of saying Hilton, because we are on row 3, we're going to say if H3, which is going to be that particular row's column H, and then we're going to say equal, and then we will type in here what we want, Hilton in quotation marks. So if H3 equals Hilton, then we want to have it tested whether it's true or not. So when we're building a statement like this, you see there's always going to be a comma after each of these conditions. So when I hit comma, you'll now see it says value if true. It's in brackets. Why is that? Because that means these are optional arguments. You don't have to put them in there, but quite frankly, in this case, we want them in there. So why don't we just say, if it's true, then we want yes to be in there, and then hit another comma. If it's not true, and I'll make sure it's nice with caps, it's going to say no. So if H3 equals Hilton, we want it to say yes. If it doesn't equal Hilton, we want it to say no, which means if Hilton is misspelled, it's going to say no. We're going to close the parentheses, hit enter, and admire, and there we see it does indeed say yes. Now, because we built, now we're going to hit F2 here, but because we built this particular formula without the absolute parameters, we did it without the dollar signs before the H and the 3, we can now do something very simple, which is to use our autofill handle and pull it down. We'll pull it down enough so we can get a no to appear. So you see every time that Hilton is not in column H for that row, it appears with a no. Now I put it in quotes. Did I have to put it in quotes? Well, always good to figure it out by just checking. So we're going to make a quick little modification here. And we're going to say if H3 equals Hilton, yes, no. So if you're never sure what to do, you see you need the quotes there, otherwise it doesn't understand. So it makes it very simple to make mistakes and then go, okay, that's how this works. So yes, and again, no, and we need to have those quotes in there. Pretty straightforward. So if H3 equals Hilton, put in yes, didn't put cap in there. Why? Because, no real reason. And if it's not true, no. So, beautiful. We can then use that autofill handle and actually even just double click right there, and that will fill your entire column. A really nice approach for using a basic piece of functionality. How to say whether this is true, we want this to happen, but if it's not true, we want something else to happen. Now, let's go to cousin if. I keep thinking the Addams Family, sorry about that. And we have 2 on the side, where we're actually going to do a little bit more. We're going to do sum and count if a condition is true. Okay, you may have noticed that we did a little cutaway because Excel didn't work exactly how I thought it was going to. But instead of letting you go through and see all that, let's do this the right way. Okay, so we're in sum if right here, and we're going to start building this condition. So equal sum if, type it properly, paren, that always opens it up for us. And now the range, again, we want only the sum to occur if they're staying at the Hilton. So the range here is going to be H colon H, that's the entire column. We'll hit the comma. The criteria, which does need to be, as we saw earlier, in quotes, is Hilton. And now it's asking us for one more thing, but something very important, the sum range. That's the range that we want to total from, and that can and oftentimes is different from the range that has the criteria. In this case, we want to sum column F, the room nights. So in this case, we are going to put in F colon F. Sum if what's in H is Hilton, and if that's the case, then sum column F. Hit enter, and there we go. That has now done that. And to make sure we're clear on that, if I change, for example, what's in H2 from Hilton to Sheridan, and then watch P through 2 as I hit enter, it's going to automatically adjust that. That's a basic sum if. Count if, the brother of the cousin of if and oh, played that one to death at this point, is going to be counting the number of records. We want to know how many people, how many different unique records are staying at the Hilton. So in this case, we're just going to build it starting in P3. We're going to go equal count if, and then it's only 2 conditions or 2 arguments, the range and the criteria. The range here is going to be H colon H, what's in that column, and the criteria is going to be Hilton, in quotes, close. Now again, it doesn't need to count anything because it's counting 1 for every record that's unique. So we have 70 people staying at the Hilton. If we wanted to change that to check who's staying at the Sheridan, well, we can just make a quick shift here. And as you see, I'm putting that Sheraton in the function bar, and now that's going to come up with that number. Now you say you might not remember all this. Is there an easier way to do this? Sure is. What we're going to do is count if one more time, and we'll put this here, this just so we know what we're doing here. But we're going to use the function approach, the insert function bar. Where is that and what does that do? Let's take a quick look. We are in the formulas menu in Excel, and on the far left it's going to say insert function. When we click on that, it's now asking us, it says search for a function or select a category most recently used. By the way, this is really valuable if you use it a lot. If you drop that down, you can get a gander of every single type of function that Excel has available. And we could put all in there and look at it. But as you see, COUNTIF's coming up toward the top because I've used it before. If I knew where it was and didn't want to go searching for it, I can just type it right in here and then hit go, and it'll give me, well, notice we have 2. The ifs, the plural, will be next week, but we're going to say count if and go. Now, instead of having to build the formula, we can just put things into these boxes. But there's one really cool thing to look at right here, which is these tiny little up arrows. These are called collapse dialog boxes. You might ask why. Well, it's simple. The box on the screen is called the dialog box, and you have to finish it before you move on to something else. You know, you're ever printing a document, you want to get back to your document, you have to hit cancel before you can actually do work again in the document. But here, because it's a collapsed dialog box, it allows us to use our cursor rather than having to always type something in there. And for the range, this might be a shortcut. So I'm going to hit the collapsed dialog box. It collapses, it's still there. I'm now going to click on the header for column H. It puts hotel in there, but what it's really putting deep down is that it wants that entire column counted. And now when I click the collapse dialog button again, you're going to see that it gives me the opportunity here for criteria. And in this particular case, I'm going to put Hilton in quotes, and you'll see automatically before we even hit the OK, it's giving us the number the result that we need. So all I had to do is fill in these two boxes, hit OK, and it built in that same COUNTIF. Now it looks a little bit different, you see, because in the one we just created using the function wizard, which is what Excel used to call it, it says COUNTIF hotel is equal to Hilton, whereas the formula we built in, we got the deep down long approach, which is the full column, H:H. Good place to stop right here to be able to go back and just summarize. We did a basic understanding of what the if functions do in Excel. An if function allows us to say, well, if a particular piece of information equals something, enter this. If not, enter that. That's one approach. But using it more productively are two of its cousins, SUMIF and COUNTIF. Summing the numbers in a column, counting the number of records. Practice that this week. If you're frustrated with it, give me a note. I'm happy to help you out. And then next week, we'll dive even deeper into this Iffy proposition using Excel. Thanks, gang. Enjoy your Microsoft Monday.